My ex-partner's new girlfriend is trying to play house with my child. I'm using a throwaway because mutual friends use Reddit. Sorry for the length. My 27F ex-boyfriend is James 28M. James and I dated for 3 years between spring 2014 and the end of winter 2017. Since my daughter 4F is obviously older than 3, it's clear that she is not biologically James. Her father was not someone who wanted to be involved with her and signed away all rights when she was born, so he is not involved in the picture. James and I were originally friends, which grew into a relationship when my daughter was around the age of 1. As my daughter grew a little bit older, she saw James as a de facto parent, a role that he happily stepped up to. She knows that he isn't daddy, but had the strongest bond with him of anyone outside of the biological family. Our relationship finished owing to a difference in personal timelines. James wanted to buy a house together. We had lived together in the last year, but we each still had our own places and moved to another city for work, while I was happy where I was located. It became a self-imposed ultimatum, and while James didn't actually move, it was clear that our relationship was over. We stayed friends, and he changed from de facto dad to fun Uncle James to my daughter. We have both made sure that she was stable about the situation, something that she clearly seems to be. As I do with other friends, my daughter and I will occasionally visit James, who sometimes has my daughter without me there for a couple of hours at a time if I have to run errands or something similar. I have no reason at all to worry about James with my daughter, who is always all smiles and 5 more minutes. When I get back. About 6 months ago James started dating Tracy 24F. She is someone that he works with who I actually first met while we were dating. Their relationship itself isn't the issue, however there have been instances that have caused concern in the past few months. The first was when James invited my daughter around for a play date with James' nephew, who he was babysitting. Tracy was there too, which I expected. However, when we arrived and James greeted my daughter with a hug, she commented on how she looked like her daddy, meaning James. Both James and I said that my daughter wasn't James' child, which is something James later said had come up in conversation between them before. She only remarked that she meant they had a strong father-daughter bond, which I thought odd, but ignored. There have been a couple of other times when I have seen Tracy either out and about or at planned events when she has said that my daughter really likes spending time with James, which I obviously know, though I just took it as awkward ex's chat. The reason I am posting is about what happened a couple of days ago. Again, James was babysitting his nephew, and had invited myself and my daughter to the park for an afternoon. We get there and everything is fine until my phone rings and I'm told that there's an emergency in the office that I have to sort out because X, Y, and Z aren't picking up their phone. I mention this, and James and Tracy offer to look after my daughter and stay in the park while I rush over to the office, only a 5-minute drive, to sort out the problem. I'm gone for about half an hour overall. The issue wasn't really an issue, as it never is, and when I get back everyone is where I left them and all happy. We start getting ready to go home when Tracy mentions to me that someone that she knew, an amateur photographer, happened to be in the park taking pictures of the landscape and had taken a couple of shots of the group, my daughter included, and that she'd send them over because they were apparently really sweet. I was a bit perturbed by someone apparently just coming over and photographing my child, but thought glass half full and decided it was only a nice gesture. A couple of hours later Tracy sends me over the solo pictures of my daughter. She says that she didn't give her friend permission to use any of the solo pictures of my daughter on her professional page, but the ones of the scenery and of James' nephew were on there, and if I wanted to give consent then my daughters could be on there too. They were actually very cute, and I looked on the photographer's page to see the rest from the day. There were some sweet candids of the nephew, and some nice couples shots of James and Tracy, but the last picture on there was a family-style portrait of everyone, my daughter included. The caption said something like the James surname, Tracy's surname, know how to have fun. I immediately messaged the page asking for the picture to be taken down as it had my daughter in it without my permission. They replied apologizing for the issue, saying that Tracy had said that the little girl was James and he gave his consent. I then messaged James asking him to not give consent for anything involving my daughter, and to remind Tracy yet again that he is not my daughter's father. He replied saying he never gave his consent for any group pictures to be on there, and he resented the accusation. I messaged Tracy later on making it clear that I didn't want my daughter to be used in any kind of situation where the facts weren't clear, and no, James was not her father. I didn't get a reply. I don't know where to go from here. I don't want to be that ex-girlfriend who tries to get her ex to sneak around behind his girlfriend's back for him to see my daughter, but at the same time he's done nothing to stop Tracy from acting out this charade of my daughter being James and therefore hers. If I just cut them both out then my daughter will be confused, though I know she'll bounce back. I know that James will be hurt too, but I need to put mine and my daughter's feelings before that. It's just getting to me that we were able to be fine and stable through our whole breakup, yet a completely unavoidable situation is what will finish this off. Should I just move on without James and Tracy in my daughter's lives? Am I simply overreacting and becoming that ex regardless? Update. So I got a lot more interest in my post than I expected. While some were either end of the spectrum, the majority seemed to suggest that James was too involved in my daughter's life. I had a long think about why I had pursued this route. To clarify to some, I did not force James into this position. He was happy to maintain a relationship with my daughter given that he had been in her life for several years. The comments concerning where my daughter would be as and when James settled down and got married and had kids of his own also made me think. This situation was definitely one of convenience, especially given the fact that our relationship ended since James wanted to move away and I did not. I definitely had no plans to challenge any of James' life choices, nor did I ever expect him to prioritize myself and my daughter over anything else. Something I seemed not to convey clearly in my original post was that James really is just a friend and has been for the past year to me, and so because of that I don't use him for anything that a parent would do. On the he's not a babysitter/daycare posts especially, he sees her maybe once every 6 weeks, and since our relationship ended he's been alone with her 3 times at the most, so this is not me using our former relationship as a tool for free childcare. He asks to see my daughter, I don't make him make time for her. As a final clarifying point, this has never been I want him so you can't have him situation. Our time together will always be cherished, but I do not want to pursue a romantic relationship with James again, and he doesn't with me. On to the update. After reading the comments to my post and thinking over the issues, I decided to send both James and Tracy messages apologizing for my reaction and my heat of the moment accusations the day after I made the post. James responded saying that it was water under the bridge and he would have been annoyed too in the situation. Tracy's response was different. All she sent was a message saying I know he is, daughter's father. I assured her that James was not my child's dad, and even went as far as to apologize if I had seemed off with her or if my current relationship with James was an issue. She asked if we could meet up and talk, which I agreed to. We met for coffee, and she said that she had been off with me, but not because of my relationship with James. She said that last year she had found out that she was infertile, and while James knew and was supportive, seeing him with my little girl who she knew he helped raise for several years got to her, which resulted in comments about him as daddy. She then said that the whole photographer situation was set up. She had asked her friend who lived near to the park to come and take some pictures of her, James and the children as soon as it was clear that I was going to have to leave. She told James the same thing she told me about the friend happening to be in the park and wanting some portfolio shots, but told the friend out of James' earshot that I was totally fine with the pictures happening and that James was my daughter's father so she has an on-site parent regardless. She was the one who suggested the family portrait shot. She told the friend to stick that one online but that the individual ones of my daughter needed to go through me first. She didn't think that I would be interested in looking at the other photos and thought I wouldn't see it. She said that having a picture of her, her partner, a little boy and a little girl was enough to keep her going since her medical news was hitting her hard. Tracy ended by saying that since James is the only father that my daughter has ever known, she is therefore the closest thing that she will ever have to a child with him. I didn't quite know how to respond. After reading many comments on my post saying that I was a jealous harpy and that Tracy was an innocent bystander, or even calmer versions of that mindset, I was surprised that my actual suspicions were actually correct somewhat. This was not the reasoning I ever thought was behind this though. I thanked her for her honesty and asked if she was talking to anyone else about this. She said she wasn't, but she knew she should be. She also said that James knew nothing of the extent to which she was feeling, other than sometimes she was a little blue. We spent a while searching online for local mental health specialists and left it with her promising to make an appointment and to talk to James. After getting home, I contacted James to say that I believed that there needed to be some distance established between him and my daughter to benefit everyone involved in the situation. He said he agreed and that he would always be there for my daughter if she needed him. I asked my daughter that evening, more out of curiosity, as to how she views James, and all she said was, James' nephew's uncle, so I'm taking that to mean that she is by no means dependent on him at the very least. I don't know if this is the end of this, and I'm sure I will get some criticism for not cutting out James altogether or for even limiting the existing contact, but I believe this will benefit everyone, including Tracy, in the long run. Thank you again for everyone's advice.